Oh, yo, what's up, everybody? It is Justin, and we are back with another episode of the CHH-ish Podcast. And we are privileged, and this is my first time speaking to him, talking to Be Nice, who was a collegiate athlete in basketball, a former Harlem Globetrotter, and now he's doing some public speaking, some voiceover, some content creation, and he raps. So let's wait for Be Nice to join us in the chat. What's up, Mitch? What's up, Fast Break? Oh, I see Be Nice. He's in here. Hey, man, just request to go live. Let me write a little caption at the bottom. And all right, so for everyone tuning in, we are going live with Be Nice. All right, here we go. In the comment. Oh, here we go. Yo,
What's going on?
what's up, man? Good to meet you on
Yes,
the interwebs.
likewise. Yes, yes, sir.
Uh,
Yeah.
so how you doing? How's everything going?
Yeah, things are good. Things are going good. It's starting to warm up a little bit here in the Carolinas, so it's been
Oh
good.
man,
It's been good.
I'm in New York, so it just snowed. It just snowed 2 days ago. There's still ice melting. It was like 20
Oh
degrees. It was
yes.
like 28 degrees this morning.
You know, it's funny you say that because I was telling somebody, I don't know if it was Tuesday, I think it was Monday. Monday we had a lot of rain. It was really bad. And I told somebody, I said, in hindsight, I'm kind of glad this is just rain because had it been snow, had it been a little bit colder, that would have all been snow. And yeah, I'm in the Carolinas, we don't do snow. People lose their mind. They don't know how to act.
I know
So
everything shuts down. Everything shuts down in Nashville and in Texas
hmm
for like an
Yep.
inch of snow.
Yeah, I mean, even most recently, couple months ago, towards the end of last year, just the threat of potential rain and freezing over like ice, like schools were shut down, and it didn't even rain that day. So that's where we're at.
Okay, I got you. Well, we're heading out of it, thank God. Um,
Yeah.
so for everybody tuning in right now, my name is Justin Sarachik. I'm the editor of Rapzilla. This man in front of me is Be Nice, rapper, former collegiate athlete, Harlem Globetrotter, well, former Harlem Globetrotter as
hmm
well, content
hmm
creator. He's currently a juice man. He's
Yes,
got the juice. We'll get
sir.
into that. Um, so I saw that you got your name Be Nice because of like your smile and your
Mhm.
attitude when being recruited.
Yep.
So, and I know you're bringing lots of joy on your platform too. So
hmm
it just fits very nice, and that's helped you kind of build this impressive resume that you got.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been, genuinely, God has been good. It's wild just to look back on all the things that I've been able to do already. I'm still working in a college town, and so I'm around a lot of, 18 to 22-year-olds, and I have a few of them I mentor, and some I've been mentoring since they've been in middle school. And it's funny that some of them forget that like I'm well into my 30s now, and so it's just like you've done so much, but yet I also feel like you're just so young. And I think it's probably just the spirit that God has given me, just how I am, just with everything that I do. So, no, genuinely, I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, man, and I feel that too because I'm 35, and I feel like, oh man, I wasted so much time. And then I talk to people that are older than me, and they're like, oh, you still have like another 50 years like to
Yeah,
figure
right.
things out, or like 45 years. I'm like, I guess that's a valid point. But
hmm
when you're young, especially if you're an athlete, and I used to do lots of sports too, you feel like the
hmm
body's getting older, but you forget that you
Yes.
still have your mind for a while, even though maybe you can't touch rim anymore or
Right.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, but my mind still thinks it's in his 20s, and my body has to say, whoa, 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 hold on, player, you're not there, you're not there anymore. So, but no, it's good, just being able to still have. I tell people, 30s is a good sweet spot because I have a lot of community that are both younger than me and
Yeah.
older than me, and feeling like I have the wisdom of 40 and 50 and beyond, but also a little bit of youth still of 20s and early 30s, just kind of, it's a nice sweet spot.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, I forgot to introduce the show. This is the CHH-ish podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's conversations with CHH, not necessarily about CHH, but of course we get into it because you're an artist and we got to talk about the music. We got to talk about the good stuff. So I
Absolutely.
kind of want to walk through your career a bit. So I had read that um, you saw a Harlem Globetrotters. Is it a show, event? What would, it's a show,
Yeah,
right?
it's most accurately described as a show.
Okay.
Yes.
An athletic show.
Yes.
So you saw a Harlem Globetrotter show, and specifically you remembered the name Curly Bo Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
and that helps kind of spark your love for basketball. So
Mm-hmm.
without getting into your time with the
Mm-hmm.
Globetrotters, because we'll get there, what did that performance mean to you when you were just like 8 or 9 years old, and how did that set you up to like on your path to, yeah, I'm gonna try to play basketball?
Yeah, so I grew up. My dad was a high school basketball coach, girls basketball in Augusta, Georgia, and so I've always been around the game. He played Division I basketball at South Carolina State, and so the game, me being in the game, was kind of just I was already around it.
Yeah.
In North Augusta, South Carolina, there's a really big high school travel ball tournament, AAU, called the Peace Jam. A lot of people in the basketball world are familiar with it. And so like that was the gym that I literally played rec ball in. So I, was always around basketball. And so the thing that the Globetrotters, I think, triggered for me was this idea of the fun in basketball. So what came a few years later, after that Globetrotter show, was obviously, it's interesting because it's All-Star Weekend. In 2000, is the famous dunk contest with Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, Steve Francis, you know what I'm saying? And so just seeing the game in a different era. And, you got to think, so all of these things are kind of happening in a nice little snowball. So I had my first experience with the Globetrotters, late 90s. You have Vince Carter and his showing, and then you started to see the and one movement start to pick up in the early 2000s as well. So it's wild to think how, just a completely different era of basketball, really started around there. And the Globetrotters for me was my introduction to it all.
Yeah, it's probably a little more like non-conventional way of getting into basketball, but I think
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's probably amazing for people who aren't into basketball to
Yes.
then kind of understand it, right? It's like a gateway drug to to
Mm-hmm.
basketball or to sports.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Um, all right, so I'm assuming you went on and you played high school ball, and then you moved on to
Yes.
Clemson. Your
Yes.
team was in the mix in
Yes.
Clemson. And there you won a dunk contest, or you I saw that you won
Yeah.
one, you came in third in another one.
Yeah, yeah. So every year for the opening weekend of college basketball, most teams have what's known as a Midnight Madness, which is like a big pep rally. And so they'll have like a scrimmage game, a couple different skits and stuff like that, but they'll also have like a dunk contest. And so had the dunk contest every single year. So we officially had a dunk contest my junior and senior year of college. We had just kind of a dunk showcase with no judges my
Okay.
freshman and sophomore year. But I think it's safe to say that if we had one, just based off of crowd reaction, I would have won. I think I feel pretty confident in saying that. But I got the opportunity to be a part of the official college slam dunk contest my senior year. So that was so the Final Four was in New Orleans, and so they invited 8 seniors to come participate in that dunk contest. Yeah, shout out Marcus. Yeah, they definitely robbed me of that dunk contest. There's a long story there, but honestly, I was just glad to be there because the contest was on a Thursday night in New Orleans, and we'll come back to that comment. It was on a Thursday night in New Orleans. I got the call on Tuesday to be in the dunk contest, and so they booked my flight early Wednesday morning, and so I got a chance to go do that, and that was amazing. I got a chance to I got third in that contest. Had I made it to the finals, I had a few more dunks still up my sleeve if for whatever reason we got to, like dunk offs and things like that. I had already coordinated with somebody. I was going to have somebody throw me alley-oop from the stands. And so just kind of, like I was a student of it. I loved it. But it's funny. I see one of my former Globetrotter teammates in the mix, Spider, Darnell Wilkes, who played at Cincy, and he was a high flyer. Back in my day, I would love to believe that I would have beaten Darnell in a dunk contest, but he also had he was smooth with it. So, I shout out to him. Appreciate you listening in.
So it's funny. And anytime I talk to like an artist and they happen to play basketball or they had played basketball, they always talk like a good game. Like, oh, I'm the best ball player in CHH. I mean, you played college and you were a Globetrotter. So, that might fall to you. Will you gladly accept that? Or do you just know, like, yeah, it's me?
So I will so it's interesting. It's an interesting like balance. I almost feel like in some ways it's not fair because I had the opportunity to play college basketball. So let's see, not the very first year, but the second year of Holy Smoke Fest, I got a chance to play in the game. So I'm playing with other artists, and so that was really fun because I was kind of a hidden gem for a handful of people until they realized, because on the original flyer, it had my government name, Brian Narcissus. And so a lot of people know me but don't know me. And then somebody, Aaron Knight, got the idea to change it to Be Nice. And then as soon as that happened, it was like so many people on the other side were like, wait, hold on. No, you cannot have him. And so, but that was fun. I tell you, who can really, really play that I saw and like in firsthand, Tori Deshawn.
I knew you
Tori
were. I've played
Tori and I have had many, back and forth about that. In that game, we had a good exchange, but like, I saw him that first year, he was getting off, and, it was, but there's a lot of people, a lot of people within CHH that talk a good game. Honestly, I wish that there were more opportunities, for stuff like that, because honestly, it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's just fun. There's something different that is, not as serious, but it builds community.
Yeah. Yeah. You know who's actually really nice too with the touch, at least. He'll be the first to admit he's not moving as well these days, but Derek Minor. I've
heard Derek is really good with it, and unfortunately, we have not played. But I've definitely heard my fair share of Derek's stories.
Okay.
So,
okay. Yeah, maybe one day we'll get to play. I have nothing left, but I give you the hustle points though. I always play good defense.
Yeah,
but
I feel you. You know what? You gotta have those people on your team. And when I tell people, like, when I was at Clemson, that was my role. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, yes, when you see me playing a pickup game, I'm able to do a lot more. But you got to know your role. I did what I needed to do to fit a role to contribute to the team when I was at Clemson. I was by no means a massive starter. And so it's also very funny whenever I'm on Twitter and I hear all these people talking about, oh, man, like, if I could play in the NBA, like I could do what, Jared Dudley does. I'm like, I promise you cannot. I promise you're not. Like, he may look the way, he does compared to a LeBron, but you got to think he practices against LeBron every single day. I think it was Brian Scalabrine that did his little tour of like, and so it's so tough, like at that level.
Yeah, I've had this conversation like a lot with some of my friends. It's like the worst athlete in any major league sport will smoke the best athlete you know. And and to put it even in baseball terms, you could take a 50-year-old pitcher who's never batted before, and you could bat him third, make him play shortstop, and he'll be the best guy in the league. So it's like, and it's like, this is not even the skill that he ever did.
Nope.
But you're a major league player, so you got there for a reason. Yeah, I love that. I love that conversation. All right, so speaking of that, since I feel like I'm having like the Uncle Rico moments talking about back in my day.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah. So what is your back in my day game? Like, what's the best game you ever had where you were just like, this is what I'm telling my grandkids about, that I did this?
I have a few. So the most recent one that I can think of is, whenever somebody finds out that I was a Harlem Globetrotter, they'll ask, like, well, what was your, signature move? What was your thing with the Globetrotters? And it's so hard to say this with a straight face, but this was genuinely my move. And if he's still in the chat, Spider, you got to vouch for me on this. My signature move was a windmill dunk from the free throw line. Ooh. Exactly, right. So that, needless to say, I did that a couple times, and maybe about a month into the tour, I'm doing that. I'm a 1 foot jumper and constantly having to jump off that 1 foot. It was a lot of wear and tear, and so I could not do that the entire time. But when I had my signature move, that was my signature move. So that was one. I tell people that I left high school with a 44-inch vertical. So that's another one. I had 6'6". I'm 6'6". I had a 7-foot-inch wingspan.
Dang.
Or 7-foot wingspan and a 44-inch vertical. And so that'll get enough people in a gym going, who is that? All the way up to, eventually getting the scholarship to a place like Clemson. I didn't get my scholarship offer to Clemson, by the way, until 2 months before I graduated high school. So, everything doesn't always happen on the timeline people expect it. You see people signing early and, with all these different, D1 offers that they're choosing from. Like, I had other D1 offers, but Clemson was my only Power 5 offer that I had coming out of high school, and it didn't come until 2 months before I graduated high school. So senior season was already over. Played in my all-star games, everything, and it just, just God really opened the door. It's kind of an interesting story, but I got to college at 17, and so that, there was the thought of whether or not I was going to go prep school route, but, it was looked upon based on who Clemson was losing at that time that I'd be a really good fit, and so I'm thankful to the coach at the time, Oliver Purnell, for taking a chance on me. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then you gave me just in you talking, about the 44-inch vertical and being 6'6". Again, that had me feeling just like a regular person, because when I would play with all of my friends, I'm about 6'2", and my vertical was probably like 29 inches, and I could grab rim, dunk on a dunk every once in a while, depending on how high the rim was in the park we were playing, and then everyone's like, oh, that's amazing. And then you're like 16, 17 inches more than that, and like 4 inches tall. Everything's in perspective.
Yeah, it is.
But did you have aspirations to go pro, or were you more like practical, or what's that?
Yeah.
What's that?
So so high school, I had the goals and dreams to go pro, and then I got the opportunity to play at a place like Clemson. And I think within the first month of just practicing, so you get to a place like here we go. So it's already hard enough playing, college ball, even harder to play D1, even harder to play at a place like, Clemson or ACC. So we're in the same conference, Duke, North Carolina at the time, Maryland, Florida State, Miami. We got competition, every single night in the ACC. And so I'm going against guys that are, ACC, players, like all ACC caliber players. And you realize, especially that freshman year, just how much of a curve, like a growth curve there really is. Like you think about, what it takes to perform at this level, and the work ethic is different. The IQ is different. It's just, a whole different game. And so I quickly realized after my freshman year that and this is kind of the dangerous thing too, when it comes to sports, in general in college, I wanted to quit after my freshman year. I didn't want to transfer. I wanted to quit because honestly, at that point, I had accomplished my goal playing, college ball. And thankfully, I stuck it out for 4 years. But I realized I realized quickly that I learned what I was able to get from basketball.
Yeah.
I didn't love the game enough to go beyond, college, or so I thought. Right. Obviously, I got the opportunity, that came up with the Globetrotters, but, I've had people that I've been able to counsel and, guide and say like, hey, if you have a goal and a dream of wanting to play in college ball, you better love the sport. I don't care if someone is paying you a full scholarship to go to this massive, school, big time school, it is very much an investment. And so even if you, at the time were not seeing any of the money was getting, paid on your behalf to go to the school to pay, on scholarship, there is money being invested in you being at that college program. And so for me, I quickly realized okay, I've got to find a sense of love and joy to remain here doing this.
Yeah.
And for me, what carried me through those final 3 years was I started through my church. I started leading a small group, and I have access to, 24-hour, gyms, high quality facilities through Clemson. And the summer between my freshman and sophomore year, I've spent so much time just playing on a blacktop with sixth graders. Now, I did not broadcast that to my coaches, but it allowed me to get my love of the game back. It allowed me to remind myself that this is, at the end of the day, just a game. It's hard when you're playing college ball, and especially nowadays, man, I can't even imagine. You think about 18 to 22, 23-year-olds that have grown men, people, talking about how you messed up my parlay, last night, with college athletics. And it's like, I'm just trying to play a game, not to mention, especially college athletes having to worry about, things at home, their studies, just a life,
being young,
and having to maintain all of that at such a young age. It's a lot of pressure. And so I always commend any, athlete that I get a chance to talk to, just, hey, you got to enjoy what you do, because if you're finding your expectation to or external validation based off of what is happening, it's wild. You can't do it. It's not going to sustain you. And ultimately, the very thing that you look to validate you can invalidate you if you give it enough time.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. Anyone watching this or is going to watch the replay of this later, that's a college athlete. These are words you need to live by. So now coming out of that, you kind of said you found, somewhat of a purpose while you were in college, right?
Yep.
So, but then the Globetrotters, which I didn't even know how this worked, they just drafted you.
Yes.
So it's like you can call it, hey, we're drafting you to the Harlem Globetrotters, and it's not like you entered some sort of draft or lottery, right, for it?
Right, no.
So how did that work? They just saw you and were like, we want this guy.
So at that point, I can't remember how often they had done it, but, they they've been having a draft for a little while, but one of the big places they draft from was the college slam dunk contest. And so I got third, and then the guy who won it, we both got drafted. And so the guy, I believe his name's Kenny, the guy who got second, he was already going and playing overseas. So it was kind of one of those things where, you know, when you get drafted, it's more or less just a formal official invitation to come try out. And so very honored to do so. I tell people the tryout was not bad. The tryout was, you know, about 3 hours in the gym and, you know, a 30-minute interview. Once that happened, they offered me a position with the team, and then I was invited to training camp. Now, training camp for the Globetrotters was a whole different story. Training camp was 9 hours a day for a week in the gym. And so and then in the evening, you're learning about, you know, media training, you know, just learning how to engage with people because, you know, you're traveling literally all over the world. So learning how to navigate different cultures, different things like that. And so I joke with people and tell them, you know, not a bad first job out of college, you know, getting a chance to travel and play with the Harlem Globetrotters. And so it was really cool, you know, just being able to do that. But they recruited very heavily from the college slam dunk contest. They recruit from other parts of the sports world. I can't remember if my year was also the year they drafted Usain Bolt.
It was.
Which again, it's just
I was looking before, and I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, you know, and the thing is, being in the, you know, the entertainment business, you know, sometimes opportunities like that become enticing and people want to, you know, check it out, you know, come see what the Globetrotters are about. And this was like, hey, a formal invitation to come do so. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. And you did it for what, like less than a year? So was it just like, all right, I've done like 200 dates of this and I'm exhausted sort of deal?
yeah, so I did it for a year, and I tell people I played more games in my 1 year with the Globetrotters than I did my 4 years at Clemson. If you want to put into perspective of how much I played, that's my stat, is I played more games in that 1 year. Another fun thing that I always mention because of that year with the Globetrotters, so because I say that everybody knows I grew up in South Carolina, you know, a lot of times I'll do my 2 truths and a lie, and I will throw in there that I experienced a white Christmas. Now, of course, we did not have that in South Carolina, but my year with the Globetrotters, I had to fly up to Green Bay, Wisconsin to start our North American tour. And so I most definitely experienced a white Christmas. And so from my first couple of games with the Globetrotters, you know, were right around between, you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And we did games over in Afghanistan. I got a chance to go just do military tour. We did military tour games. And so that was really cool. Really small world. Got a chance. I only played middle school ball for 1 year. And I ran into one of my middle school basketball teammates who was stationed at one of the places that we went to.
Wow.
And so just, it's crazy, you know, going literally across the world with the game of basketball. And then we did about 4 months of games across North America, and then did a week in Egypt. You know, got a chance to see the pyramids and everything. And then finally, you know, just, you know, that was kind of it for my Globetrotter career. And while I traveled a lot, it went by fast.
Yeah. And what were you like 21, 22?
So I was officially 22 when we started playing games. So yeah, on the road, 22, just, you know, living out of a suitcase.
Man,
you know, tour life, you know, whether it's for an athlete, whether it's for, you know, an artist.
you were in a band.
Tour life is no joke.
You were basically in a world.
I tell people I played a show. I played a show in Vegas.
You did a world tour.
Yeah.
You were a world touring band.
Yes.
So now and I know you pretty recently left, but what about your time with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what was that all about? And then ultimately, why did you leave to kind of enter this next part of your journey, of your world tour?
Yes, absolutely. It's my time at the FCA was special and still is, you know, in some ways. I I was on staff with Fellowship of Christian Athletes, FCA, for 10 years. And, FCA was the ministry when I was in high school that ultimately allowed me to have a relationship with Christ. I realized that basketball, as good as it was God of my life, and I had to fully surrender that. And I learned through serving at various FCA camps, even while I was in high school, just the impact of using my platform, using my influence. Because so many people, like I said, at that point, I was an active college athlete serving at a lot of these camps, and I'm able to, have, middle schoolers, high schoolers in like my small group at these camps, and I'm able to, kind of put them on the game about like, hey, this is the things that I've experienced as a college athlete.
Yeah.
These are the things that, what it looks like to navigate that, because many of them have those goals and aspirations to do so. And FCA was so much just a blessing to me to be able to grow as what it means to be a Christian man. A man of God, truly rooted in the word, and, finding community in the local church. I'm so thankful for FCA. FCA is actually how I met my wife.
Nice.
She used to be on staff with FCA. And so just, the doors and avenues that God opened up through the ministry of FCA are so many beyond words and beyond anything that I could count. And so I spent 10 years, the last 7 have been here at Clemson University serving, as an advisor for our student group of FCA here, which is interesting. They're actually meeting right now. I'm actually at the place where we're meeting, but I'm away, right now. But there's about 800 college students gathered in a room right now, just worshiping right now. So it was a real special place for me, and that's a cool part about my story is, FCA at Clemson is primarily non-student athletes, but for me, it was cool because I got a chance to grow in what it truly means to be just a man of God and having community with people who didn't just see me as a basketball player. When you're at a level like Clemson, a lot of people only want to have basketball conversations. And I recognize it comes with the territory, but like, I'd love to tell you about what the Lord is doing in my life. And also just, hey, these are areas I'm struggling in. These are things that, I'm learning. And so FCA was very much a ministry that did that. And so being able to come back and kind of serving as an advisor for the student group has been very special. So I'm still kind of serving in a volunteer role.
Okay.
But the step of obedience for me was to trust the Lord, and it was definitely taken prayerfully, through prayer and fasting. This was honestly the first time I felt the Lord prompt me into fasting about a big decision. And, my wife and I, we fasted, back in the fall, and just really felt the Lord leading me into a season of freelancing as a creative. And it's wild. You get to a place eventually, as a believer, when unfortunately you could drift into what's known as functional Christianity, and you're not really dependent on the Lord. And I think what is being shown to me is just being able to experience the Lord in a brand new way in this season. And, I'm still not too far removed, like I said, from my FCA family. And so it's cool to still be able to kind of serve them and volunteer in a volunteer capacity, but also in continuing to walk in what I believe the Lord has for both me and my wife.
Yeah, awesome, man. And it's fun. I joked about this in the DMs when I originally hit you up last year to have a conversation, and it didn't happen. But it seems like right now is the perfect time.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely perfect timing.
Amazing. All right, so here's the $1 million question. What's your fascination with juice? Tell us.
Yes.
I mean, delicious. Yes.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
tell us about it.
Right. Yeah. So, it's interesting. The seed for this has been planted long since, high school. We used to always just have an expression amongst our team, just we want to be people who share the juice, so always bring the energy. In my high school career, I never lost the overtime game. We never lost But ironically, my high school career ended on a last second shot where I was like, if we were going to overtime, we knew we were going to win. The problem is they hit a shot before overtime in regulation. And so it's like, well, that's how it ended. They did not give us a chance. So it's all good. But the fascination and the thing that I think the Lord has really been putting on my heart with this whole juice concept was it started out as a music project back in 2021. And so, I've been a part of a few Patreons. So I got a shout out to my guy, Ruslan. So Ruslan, he has, Fan Love Fridays and, was really just trying to get artists, to put out music or just like put music out. And part of it was, he was offering feedback to people. And so like, I got back into a season of writing very frequently. And so I was constantly sending him stuff and then constantly, just putting out singles. And then next thing you know, I went to Holy Smoke the very first year. And what happened was I felt, just the Lord kind of put the concept of just the juice box on my heart. And the idea is, a juice box doesn't really, it's not, usually a lot of juice in there, but it's very refreshing. The idea is very nostalgic, but it made me think about just being a person where like that just refreshes others.
Okay.
And so and the idea of the juice box projects was like, hey, I'm always working on stuff, but here's a little something to hold you over. So I did a juice box 1, and then I did a juice box 2, originally put together a juice box 3, which technically still is done, but I now understand this is the first project that I could genuinely say, hey, I finished it, but it never came out. I don't know if it ever will come out. We'll see. But what came from that was just a deeper understanding, I think, of the idea and the concept of fruit as a whole. And I kind of the juice is born out of, we're called to bear fruit. And I feel like to get from the process of, fruit to juice, there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of things in this world. You heard my story, of everything that I've dealt with when it came to basketball, when it came to life in general, and just learning that juice is something that comes on the other side of, whatever you've been through. It's essentially your testimony, it's your message, the thing that stirs you up and really gets you going. And so I'm thankful to be able to share juice in so many capacities and be able to help other people find theirs. And I know that with this last season, towards the end of FCA, I learned something even greater about the idea of fruit, in that no matter, because a lot of times as believers, we talk about, they'll know you by your fruit. They'll know you by, like your fruit. And we got to be very careful about how we say that. I understand the heart behind it, but I think a lot of times if we just go based off of what we see, we could miss that somebody may not be in the season that has them bearing fruit as we would, identify it. Yeah. Meaning, no matter, there's no amount of obedience, there's no amount of effort, there's no amount of striving that's going to produce the same visual kind of fruit that you see in the spring in December. But that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the tree. It just isn't the season. And so what does it truly mean to be fruitful? It means to abide. And that you can't see. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're just looking on the external for, what somebody's fruit is, you're going to possibly think, oh, well, somebody isn't, bearing fruit, or they're not doing this. But I think when it comes to, to spending time with people, you actually doing life with people, and you, especially people who have, experienced a lot of life, experienced a lot of, heartache, experienced a lot of, pain, pressures that the world has, because, social media only tells part of the story. We all know this. And so many people are quick to, offer their opinions, offer their insight to things that they don't even know the full story about. But I think what's beautiful is, somebody who is truly operating in, full alignment to what they know the Lord is stirring in there, when they're truly abiding with the Lord and where they have them. So like for me, I can think all the way back to elementary school, and the Lord has wired me to be a storyteller. I was on the newspaper staff when I was in middle school, high school. I got my degree in communication studies, obviously doing music and, speaking, sharing my story, testimony, and things like that. I know that this is something that the Lord has uniquely wired me for. And I think in this season, I've learned to lean into that, in a unique sense, especially in a digital, the digital environment that we live in. I feel like there's so many opportunities just to connect with people, to help people feel seen, feel heard. And it's because there's just a lot of broken people in the world. And, how can I use what I know God has put inside of me, the fruit and the juice, to honestly just impact others, to encourage others.
Yeah, that's so good, man. So good. And you do that with the way you've been rolling out your content too. It's a lot of, I saw you had like detailed it out, I think on Twitter, right? You did a thread like, this is why I did this. I would encourage everyone to go check out his Twitter or his Instagram, and just see the way that he lays out and formats the content. It's super dope.
Thank you.
And we could probably spend a whole nother episode just talking about that strategy. So
I would love to. We'll make it part 2.
we could do it. We could do something again. All right. Well, you mentioned, just hip hop and then within your basketball career. So how did rap music sort of like intertwine with your basketball career? Were you rapping in high school and college? Were you messing around? Like what was that journey?
Yes. So, started out doing poetry when I was in middle school. Told you I was a writer. So, always been a storyteller in that sense. But like my mom was, very artistic, very much a writer. And so when I got to high school, it eventually became, remixes and, writing my own raps and things like that. And so, I can remember the early days of, like Kurt Franklin, of, just Fred Hammond, Canton Jones, way back once upon a time. And then, I get to high school, it's the, Lecrae, the early days of, after the music stops, hearing those at different events and things like that. And so when I started making music, I did a remix for a pep rally my senior year and rapped it. It was like a remix to Walk It Out or Two Step or something, and performed it live in front of everybody. And so that was fun. And then when I got to college, I actually started doing mixtapes and, got a chance to connect with a guy, Ben Huffer, just a student that had a setup in his apartment. And so we would go just record and, do stuff. And so it was always just something that I had kind of in the background, but finding other people that kind of helped bring the dream to life. I got connected with so many people over the years. I got a chance to link up with Doc Watson, who is a massive help, the big, pioneer within the CHH space. And so I got connected with him, and he got me connected to Dirty Rice, and so I got a chance to connect with a lot of people just over the years when it came to, just making my rounds, with people when it came to, like my early days of hip hop. And so, it's funny actually, now that from a timing standpoint, so my year with the Globetrotters was 2013. I had done some projects at that point, but I think I vividly remember entering a contest. It was more or less like a Hot 16 contest with Rapzilla, and I actually won it. So I won a contest while I was on the road with the Globetrotters. And part of my prize, and this is the interesting part of this. Part of my prize was to, I think I got like a free music video, and I remember going and shooting it with Space Cherry Films, And I think that's when I realized, very similar to basketball, is you can have all the skills in the world, but when it comes to kind of making that next step, when it comes to like the business side of music, you gotta want to do that too.
Uh-huh.
Similar to, like
Yep,
when it
absolutely.
comes to basketball, you can have the skills, but do you want to show up at 6 a.m. for conditioning when you know you're not getting playing time? Do
Yeah.
you want to have to go through the paces of, you're not strong enough to hang with the upperclassmen and things like that? Like it's all a parallel. And so for me with music, I enjoy writing. I enjoy making it. I would say right now I'm not as deep in pursuing it. And I know for some people who, like I mentioned, who still may be waiting on that Juicebox 3, it may be a heartbreak to them, but just kind of understanding the season of life that I'm in and then kind of approaching, it's music is always going to be in me. Always going to be something that I'm connected to. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit of my story and an overview.
Yeah, man, that's dope because it's funny. So you were technically kind of working with Rapzilla in some
Mm-hmm.
sort of capacity before I even knew what Rapzilla was.
Wow, that's
And then 'cause
awesome.
I didn't get with Rapzilla till like the end of 2015.
Okay.
Space Cherry Films is Will Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
right? And Will
Yep.
Thomas is like one of my best friends now over the last couple of years,
Dope.
and we're working on stuff. So
Okay.
you work with everyone I'm affiliated with. You knew them
Mm-hmm.
before me, and you worked with them, but I didn't know you. We didn't know each
All
other.
good. All
Now
good. Yeah, yeah. In
now
due
we do.
timing.
Now you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess you kind of alluded to this a little bit. What's next for you musically, creatively? I saw you said you wanted to do some voice acting too,
Yeah.
which is a whole nother beast, I'm sure. So yeah.
Yeah. So what I've started to realize, and I'll think back to a lot of feedback that I've gotten over the years, even with all the years that I've done music. I've heard a lot of people talk about, they love the beat choices that I have, and weirdly enough, like yes, like I'm one of those that like I like to have a good flow, but I also like to weave in a lot of wordplay into stuff,
Yeah.
and so but I learned in the, kind of these recent iterations of Juicebox, you kind of have to have a little bit of both. You have to have like the deep lyrics where people, like if they run it back a
Yep.
couple times, they'll catch something new. But it also has to be palatable on the first listen. It has to just be like, something that, okay, oh wow, this is just easy to listen to. I can rock with this. Um, but for me, I would say the other thing that people mentioned that they enjoyed about my music was my voice and just kind of how I presented it. And so that's part of kind of what got my wheels spinning of like, because of my story with the Globetrotters, with Clemson and things like that. Most people, whenever they, hit my line to book me for something, they're not booking me to come rap. They're booking me to come speak. They're booking me to come share my story and things like that. And so, but I realized that I always have a bend towards, understanding music of how things flow and stuff like that. And so I realized, how can I use that, kind of the awareness that I have when it comes to music and the passion that I still do have for it, and kind of use that, almost going back to my roots with spoken word and poetry and things like that, to connect people, because I know how to engage an audience. I know how to connect with people. How can I maybe even find a way to take my passion with music and almost in a shorter version use it in a like a quicker motivational setting type deal. So that's what I've been most recently doing, kind of with like, we'll call it the voice acting. And so
Yeah.
like just writing different stuff that you see on a Nike ad, Adidas ad. I mean, that's very musical in the pacing of it and how it's delivered and things like that. I had a good conversation with another friend of mine who's in videography, and just the ability to capture a moment or create a moment. That's essentially what musicians do. And so how can I do that, but more so just purely like motivational, purely just, spoken. Um, and so that's kind of what I'm navigating right now. I really don't know how, like here we go. The easiest translation or core connection would be like, I'll think of them almost like mini sermon jams,
Okay.
but more so just like
Got you.
they tend to be more like advertisements. Like, I made a Adidas ad last week, a spec ad, and I kind of been doing these little like 20 to 30-second little, like, hey, I'll read a quote or something really quick, and then kind of have, music drop, with it.
Yeah.
And so I'm realizing, things like that are very much up my alley, things that I enjoy, things that I'm passionate about. And so I'm like, I think just being consistent in that is probably going to be kind of what I'm going to be building going forward, at least in the immediate future.
And it's amazing that like we can do things like that now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whereas even 10 years ago, it's like, how did you make a spec ad, in your house
Mm-hmm.
for a company?
Yeah.
Like, I just went into my room and I just recorded it. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like that's how easy all this stuff is to do now. And I uploaded it as a reel and it went viral, and then Adidas hired me. Like that's how
Right.
things
Yep.
happen now.
Mm-hmm.
It's so wild, man. Okay, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time, so I'm going to ask you the most controversial question of the entire conversation.
All right.
Before you go, give us your top 5 NBA players of all time.
Ooh, yes. The hard-hitting stuff
This
to end.
this might be the moment, when I upload clips later that's going to get the most engagement and people yelling at each other. So,
Of course. Okay, so top 5, and I'm glad you framed up NBA players, because it's a conversation that has to be mentioned if anyone ever is talking about greatest of all time when it comes to basketball. If you don't have Kareem in your top 3, I don't respect you, because he won at every single level. But you're much more likely for him to fall out of your top 3, top 5, whatever, if you're just talking about NBA. So I'm glad you framed it up like that. Top 5 NBA for me. I'm going to go no order to kind of give myself a cop out.
No.
No, all right. Well, let's get the top 5.
Yeah,
Let's get the top 5, and then we'll try to order it. All right. So top 5, I think you gotta have MJ. I think you gotta have LeBron. Top 5, I think you have to have. If we're talking NBA, ooh, it's hard contextually. You're conflicted whether or not you want to put Wilt or Bill in there. You want to put Kareem in there. You want to put Bird or Magic in there. I think if we're gonna go in NBA, I'm much more likely, just purely from the center position, I think Shaq. I'm willing to put Shaq in the top 5 discussion. For the simple fact that he literally changed the game. And so we'll go, and yes, recency bias, we'll say MJ, LeBron, Kobe, Shaq, and I almost want to put Magic and Bird in there as a duo. I'm gonna put top 5 NBA all time. Man, golly.
You
Yeah.
do a lot of public speaking, and you know your
Yes.
story well, but you were not prepared for this one.
I was
You
not
didn't get
prepared for this question.
no
I
media
did.
training
There's a
for
lot.
this question.
No,
No
I
media training for this.
did not. None. Yeah, so I will probably go. I'll go Kareem, just because
Okay.
it's for the
I
sake
don't
of
disagree.
a cop out.
I don't disagree with anyone you said.
Okay.
All of those people are at least in the top 10
Mm-hmm.
for sure,
Yeah.
arguable. And
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, you didn't mention anyone out of pocket, like just like, because there's always somebody who's like, and this is not a shot. I'm just
No,
the
I
first
know.
name I thought of.
Yes.
Yeah, Dame Lillard. top 5 all time.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
just
No.
you're a Trailblazers
He's
fan. That's
yes,
what happened.
exactly. Which, don't get me wrong. Like, if we're talking greatest Blazer, if you're a recent memory, okay, I can see why you would say that. And even still, I don't think I would say
Yeah.
him. I might go Drexler. I mean, Drexler at least got him to the finals, but that's just me.
Yeah. There's so many caveats and stuff, and it's like, oh, the guys in the 50s and 60s were playing against plumbers. I'm like, yeah, these plumbers probably still would have killed you. Like,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
just like we.
Going back to our original
Yeah,
conversation.
maybe
Yes.
compared to the worst player in the league now,
Hmm.
maybe, but it's still
Yeah.
better than you. But
Yes.
yeah, so there's a lot of caveats. But all right, that was a good top 5 though. I
Yeah.
don't think anyone's gonna be like, this guy doesn't know ball or
Right.
anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing is, it's always subjective. I have a whole thesis of, whenever these arguments come up is, we'll call it a lion and a unicorn debate. If I can just cook for a second, just on that. Yeah.
Go
All
ahead.
right. So when it comes to greatest of all time of anything, especially in an athlete, you gotta decide whether or not you're more aligned with a lion or a unicorn. So here's what I mean. So
Okay.
let's take it to a different sport. Let's take it to football. Okay. So greatest of all time quarterbacks. Well, obviously you're going to look at your, Tom Brady's. You're going to look at, your pure, born to play this game. Like that like they can't do anything else. They can't play another position. This is who they are. This is what they do. All right.
Yeah.
Those are your Lions. All right. So your Lions, your Jerry Rice at receivers, your Emmitt Smith at running backs, your Tom Brady's at quarterbacks. Now, on the unicorn side is when you start making the case for a Michael Vick, a Bo Jackson, a Randy Moss, guys that played the position, but they kind of changed the position based off of what we would normally perceive people at that position to do.
Yeah.
So I fall under the initial, like when we talk about going back to basketball, MJ and all of the MJ disciples, Kobe, of the like, are Lions. And so the Kobe, the MJs, the Larry Birds, I would almost, in that era, like those were, Lions. They were born to play basketball. That is purely all they were going to do. Versus your unicorns of LeBron. I'd even throw Wilt as a unicorn. Wilt was a freak of nature, just
55
off the charts.
5 points per game, 30 rebounds.
Yeah, and he's, however tall he is, 7 foot running, 4'3", 40, like just don't do that. And so just, when you think about, especially nowadays, your Giannis's, your players that are just, so I would consider Joker, as purely a basketball player. So he's going to be a Lion. But yes, to that point, it's like the guys that just play the game. That granted, European players, they play very much positionless basketball, so they bring a whole different style to the game. They have a different understanding of how the game is played, especially if you get them in a good system that nurtures that. I mean, Jokic can literally yawn, wake up, and drop a triple-double. He's not even trying to, be anything other than just a basketball player. That's just what he does. And so then you have guys that, can go to a Super Bowl party, on one night, 2 nights later, they play in, a sold out game in Madison Square Garden, drop 40, then have 2 more, celebrity endorsements, appearances in 2 days. And then, they're just able to balance it all.
Harden. Yeah, James Harden.
Yeah, right.
Club after the game.
Yeah, and like there's just some people that are just like, hey, I just want to hoop. I don't even care about all the other stuff. Like I just want to hoop. But then there's other people that navigate the, what it takes to kind of the side quest is almost what I'll call it. Yeah. Even down to music, you had Tupac doing the movies and things like that. You got Kendrick doing features with Taylor Swift and Imagine Dragons and all these people. And then you have J. Cole, you have Biggie, who's very much just, I just want hip hop. That's all I want to stay. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
do really anything outside of that. So I don't know. That's just something that a conversation that I typically have whenever the greatest of all time discussion comes up. So a
Yeah.
little something extra.
Yeah, it's valid because you have people who just win, and maybe they're not the greatest, but if you win 10 times, you seem pretty great. Then you have people who are
Absolutely.
better than everyone else, but maybe they don't win. So how do
Mm-hmm.
you validate? It's kind of like the MVP debate. Is it the most valuable player,
Mm-hmm.
in the league,
Yep.
or are they most valuable because they help their team win?
Right.
So there's that too, and that's all semantics now. All right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
anything? All right, I give you the final word. Anything else you want to add, mention, plug? Let the people know where they can find you. And yeah, and that's it.
Man, yeah. So obviously, first of all, Justin, thank you so much for having me. Genuinely, I appreciate the conversation. It's been very fun. We'll definitely have to do it again at some point. But yeah, just find me online at Be Nice, just the letter B, Nice 21 on all platforms. And the biggest thing that I would tell people is, kind of the thing that I've been chewing on personally is you can count the number of seeds in an apple, but you can't count the number of apples in a seed. So, don't
Nice.
don't sell yourself short. There's something inside of you that God wants to use and wants to do, and truly think that it starts with knowing Him. It starts with just completely surrendering your plans to Him and trusting that He is, going to provide fruit in due season. And then when the pressures of life, come to you and, weigh you down, hey, you always still got juice to share. So that's all I got.
You brought it right back. Very nice. Nicely done. All right. So for everyone, if anyone came in late or they're watching now, I'm going to re-upload this so you can watch the whole thing. I'm going to cut it up into clips. It'll be on YouTube. So this will not be the last of him. You will see him again. Thank you so much, man. I
Awesome.
appreciate the time. Dope conversation. Like you said, it was super fun. And keep us aware of what you got going on, because I know you got stuff going on. So just shoot me a line and let us know.
I would definitely keep you in touch, man. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Have a good night. Thanks.
All right, you too. See ya.
Yeah. All right, everyone. This was another episode of the CHH-ish podcast. So again, I'm going to re-upload this. This was Be Nice, and I'll see y'all next week.